On today's Music Nerd is the constant broadcasting of what we're listening to, leading us into an era of musical homogeneity.
Music Nerd this week.
In recent years, doom/stoner/sludge metal rockers Baroness have become one of my favorite bands. Baroness have always walked a fine line between metal and straightaway rock and roll. Their vocals are growly, but still manage to carry a melody. Their guitars are riffy, but not shreddy. Their drums are intricate, complex, driving, but not a blast beat. So I was super excited for last week's release of their brand new double album, Yellow and Green. So excited, in fact, that I looked up a bunch of reviews in advance. And most of the reviews were pretty negative. Critical word is that they've gone soft, they've gotten too timid, they've ventured too far out of metal territory. One video blogger went so far as to say that at times they sound like Nickelback. Gasp! So the album finally came out. I've given it a few thorough listenings, and I can't say that I really disagree with the critics. But I find myself wondering if it was a mistake to look up so many reviews before I had had time to develop an opinion of my own. As someone who doesn't listen to very much Nickelback, I wouldn't have made that connection at all. But now that the idea is in my head, I can't help but think of Chad Kroeger when I hear this.
That does sound like Nickelback.
I don't want this to turn into a Baroness review. And for the record, I do like a lot of what is on the album. If you want to check it out for yourself, I've added it to the Music Nerd Spotify playlist. There's a link in the description to that. You should check it out and subscribe to it because it's awesome. My point here, though, is that somebody else's opinion has pretty clearly influenced how I'm now listening to one of my favorite bands. As Spotify has replaced iTunes as my primary music player, as my listening habits have become public knowledge, I find myself being more and more self-conscious about what I'm listening to. Knowing that some people associate Baroness with Nickelback means that in all likelihood I'm listening to less Baroness than I otherwise would. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's become more self-conscious about what I'm listening to. As our media consumption habits have gone public, I worry that more and more people will fear being looked down upon by their peers and therefore stick closer to musical norms. The opinion of the majority is driving our cultural conversation in new and exponentially vitriolic ways. Could we be entering an age of musical homogeneity? In 10 years' time, could we all be listening to exactly the same thing for fear of being chastised by our peers? Or will things head in exactly the opposite direction? Will the increasing publicness of what we're listening to result in people listening to more random, independent, disparate things? Will it result in friends getting into a race with each other to find the most obscure musicians possible? Either way, does worrying about how cool what you're listening to makes you distract from the music itself? Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Anyway, that's it for this week's Music Nerd. Click the like button down there. And to watch Happy Fun Music Time with Elaine, click here. To watch the Rap Report with Esteban, click here. And to watch the other half of Music Nerd, where I crunch the numbers, and subscribe to Fuse.